On today's show, the one and only and incredible Andrea Russell. Andrea and I met before the pandemic, and she was considering Imiloa for hosting her Ayurvedic mindfulness and yoga retreats. Things got paused, like they did for all of us, and I'm really proud to say that Andrea has hosted two sold-out retreats at Imiloa and is hosting two more next year, both of which are already half sold out in 2024. She is pursuing her doctorate in Ayurvedic medicine, which she'll have in October. She winters in Costa Rica, fancy pants. She winters in Costa Rica and is from the Midwest. I have to tell y'all, Andrea is the reason why I went to India to do a 21-day Panchakarma. I went to the place that she recommended, and it was one of the most life-changing experiences of my life. But that's what it's like to be around Andrea, y'all. It's like this magic that she has when you're around her. You get to learn more about yourself and have life-transforming experiences as you do. Andrea, that was an introduction.
Thank you. What an honor. What an honor to be here with you. Thank you for the really kind and generous words. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and I just always love our time together.
Yeah, and I do too. I love you and respect you as a person, but as a practitioner of Ayurveda, which I think is a modality and a medicine not a medicine, it's a modality that is likely to permeate culture in the West a lot more than it already is. I find it fascinating, mostly because, as a layperson, you can almost feel the thousands of years that it's been being practiced in India. You can feel that in the alignment of what Ayurveda is. Like, it just feels aligned. Like, every time I learn something new about Ayurveda, it's like, of course. It's not like, oh, that feels a little foreign or that feels odd. It always feels aligned. Do you have that sense? I mean, we'll go into what it is, but at a kind of a top shelf level, do you have that sense that there is this alignment when you started learning about Ayurveda in your own life?
Completely. I feel that Ayurveda is this timeless wisdom that offers teachings that are completely relevant for our modern life. And it's remarkable because although Ayurveda is a 5,000-year-old tradition, a lot of the classical texts that we still use, learn from, teach from, are about 1,200 years old, and they are speaking about the things that we struggle with today. It's pretty remarkable.
So when you're talking about the 1,200-year-old texts, what specifically in Ayurveda?
Yeah, so there's texts, Charka Samhita, Shiva Samhita, that are Ashtanga Hridayam, that are 1,200 years old. And these are the textbooks that we use and that we study still today. And they are just as relevant now as they were in the past.
When you say that Ayurveda is 5,000 years old, but yet the texts are only 1,200 years old, what was happening for 3,000 years? Do we have any sense?
Yeah, it was an oral tradition for a long time, and a tradition that was passed down through generations within families.
Okay, so it was passed down. And do we have ideas of like what the origin story of Ayurveda was? Like, do we know beyond the text? It was like, how does one stumble upon something like this?
Yeah,
I don't know. This might be a silly question.
There's all sorts of mythological stories, but if we think about Ayurveda coming from the time of the Vedas, which are about 5,000 years old, we see a lot of traditions that came out of that time, meditation, yoga, different practices, that came out of the Vedic period that are still relevant today.
Interesting. So what about Ayurveda has most impacted your personal understanding of health and wellness?
There's so many places I can go, both on a personal level. I'm happy to talk about how it's transformed my life, and also kind of a bigger scope. So the Sanskrit word swasta is a word that is translated as health. However, swasta, when we look at the translation, means to be fully established in oneself. So Ayurveda is saying that the marker of health is to be fully established in oneself. And that's so important during this age and this time when so many things are trying to tell us that we need something external to be happy, or so many things that are trying to pull us off our center. So Ayurveda is saying, the way you achieve a health is actually to embody your true nature, to be who you really are, to achieve your full potential. and connect to that inner wisdom that flows through you. So I think that is a medicine that is so important right now in our modern day. And then also, I came to Ayurveda for a multitude of reasons, but how it's transformed my health is back in 1996, I lived in a cabin in the Redwood Forest with no plumbing and no electricity. And it was this wonderful time in which I really discovered who I was and what my purpose was in life. I decided in that time that I wanted to dedicate my life to health, wellness, and spiritual awakening. So that's what I did over the next, 25 years. However, also during that pivotal time of claiming health in my own life and wanting to kind of serve others in that way, I developed a pretty nasty stomach bug. I developed giardia, which then morphed into digestive issues, years of digestive issues. And although I was trying all sorts of things from naturopathy to, Western medicine, to acupuncture and herbs, nothing was really getting to the root of it. And I knew of Ayurveda. I had discovered Ayurveda back in 2000. I knew of it. I would say, was bringing it into my life in a way that was convenient and simple, but not really full on.
Sounds like me. I'm so sorry. And I outside of this, you are my Ayurvedic practitioner, and I'm trying to bring it full on, but it's like, I'm like piecemealing it. And that's how people start, right?
It is. And it can still be incredibly beneficial. Like, it was definitely helping me in creating a life that was more balanced in the way of daily living in rhythm with the seasons, living in rhythm with the stage of the life that I was in. But I wasn't using Ayurveda really as a medicine, as a healing pathway to heal my own gut, because I didn't have the skills. I didn't know of that knowledge. Because I was learning mostly from books. And so I started working with an Ayurvedic practitioner and learned that the core of Ayurveda is, how is your gut? How is the strength of your Agni? That it's through healing our gut that we can often heal the rest of us.
What is Agni? I gotta slow you down.
Yes,
Agni.
Of course.
You're using shorthand for all you Ayurvedic people. So Agni, what is Agni?
So Agni is your digestive fire. And your digestive fire is situated, we often say, in the lower third of your stomach. Even though every cell has its own Agni, the main Agni, Jatara Agni, is what you can think of as the campfire for digestion. So you want that campfire for digestion to be burning strong, but not too strong. If it's too strong, it's going to incinerate everything you eat. You won't digest well. But if it's smoldering and not burning well, you also are not going to digest and metabolize and assimilate everything that you eat. And our tissues are built based on what we eat. So this is really vital and important. So I started working with an Ayurvedic practitioner and realized that from the years of struggling with resolving the giardia that I picked up living in the woods, and then taking antibiotics to try to remedy from a Western standpoint, my gut was really weak. And it was also very sensitive. I had an extremely limited and narrow diet of what I could digest. I had done an elimination diet, and it was just really difficult to bring back anything in because my gut wasn't strong enough. And so it was through Ayurveda that I learned how to heal my gut, how to strengthen my Agni. And it's been now, almost 10 years that I would say that I have not had digestive issues, and it's given me a lot more energy. It's brought so much to me in my life. And so when I was working with people one-on-one, I noticed that they needed more than yoga therapy. That's what I was offering at the time. And I knew that they needed Ayurveda. And so I went to school simply so that I could share Ayurveda with others, since it had such a profound impact on myself.
Mm. Yeah, I started learning about it during COVID. We had an Ayurvedic practitioner that was living at Imiloa, and I started learning about the 6 tastes. And I was like, well, that feels intuitive. Like, there are 6 tastes. And when you combine the 6 tastes in a meal, you feel whole and you don't feel hungry. And so then I started doing that, and I was like, oh my God, this stuff is really interesting. I didn't know anything about Agni or digestive fire or all of this. But then when you and I started working together, for people that are listening, beyond just the amazing retreats that you hosted in Imiloa, which I'm excited to talk more about, but the, you had asked me to send you a picture of my tongue, and my tongue was very coated in white. And I was just about to go to India to do what's called this 21-day. Well, I did 21 days panchakarma. And I think the most startling thing is through the protocol of Ayurveda, which is really a whole body, mind, spirit protocol. Like, it's as much about the chanting in the morning as it is about going through the day and the treatments and the food that you are or not eating. But within 21 days, the tongue, which suggested that I had, and you can remind me, that's kind of that smoldering campfire digestive tract, not digesting. The Agni was not as strong as you would have liked, right? Or
the white on the tongue signifies ama, and ama is undigested metabolic waste that can be in the gut and cause digestive issues. And also when ama is left to accumulate, it can pass through circulation to the rest of the body and kind of be a precursor or the start of imbalances or disease elsewhere in the body as well.
So this was really awakening for me, and perhaps for those listening, because I recognize, because I am mostly vegetarian, vegan. I don't crave a lot of salt and chips, and I hike at the farm that I'm at, and I have different practices, but I'm still carrying all this extra weight. And so I started working with you, and I thought, what is this? And then to realize that a component of it might be that I'm not doing the proper things for a really effective digestion. And then to go to India and see a third of my tongue clear up, where the white just cleared up. It was like, oh, this is not just some woo-woo thing that people are like, Ayurveda. It's like, there's a real thing here, Andrea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a medicine. It is Ayurveda is the indigenous medicine of India, and it offers us these ways in which we can be healthier in our modern lives. And what ama gets created often because we have weak digestion, like our digestion will be slow or sluggish. How do you know if you have slow or sluggish digestion? You won't have hunger for your meals. So you just kind of eat out of convenience, or you eat because you know you should. Or maybe you're hungry for some meals, but your digestion kind of swings back and forth. It's irregular. So that's one way to tell if your Agni is not consistent, if you have a slow or sluggish Agni. But ama can also be created by eating foods that are too heavy for our particular digestion. Or it could be you're eating too much at a given meal, or you're eating before the previous meal has been digested, or you have poor food combining and you're not eating things that digest in a way that's going to be wholesome for you.
For example, I learned never eat eggs and cheese together.
Exactly.
All these little rules that I have in my head now are like,
dairy and protein separate.
Dairy and protein separate. And then for me, it's about, easing off the salads and the juices, because that makes it difficult for my ama to be, or for my, anyways, I'm not going to try to understand it. I just know what I'm supposed to do. Can we go back to the cabin for a second, back in 1996?
Of course.
You said that you had an awakening and you got clear in your direction and your purpose in life. Mm-hmm. What happened in that cabin? I mean, no plumbing, no electricity. How long did you live there for?
Only 6 months. It was a very short time.
What happened? Did you run out of money and then you ran to a cabin, or like what happened?
I did. Yeah, I did run out of money and have to come home because it was 1996. I was 19 years old and I had just left my parents' house and I went off to college. And first semester of college, I hated it. I didn't know what I was doing there. I didn't really have a purpose or really know myself on a deep level. Like I didn't really know the truth of who I was and what my meaning of life was. And so I was going to college and not liking it, not understanding really why I needed to be there. Besides that, if I didn't go to college, I had to get a job. So, I had a boyfriend at the time that said, do you want to go out to California for Christmas break? And I said, yes. And we then happened to be at a hotel and ran into some friends, and they told us they had a cabin in the redwood forest with no plumbing or electricity, that they were looking for renters. And we went and looked at it. And I called my mom from a payphone because we didn't have cell phones back then and said, hey, dropping out of college, can you pack up my dorm and send me all my college money because I'm staying here? And my parents are remarkable. They probably support me far beyond measure. And she said, we don't agree, but will do this for you because it's what you want. And so, I grew up camping, so I loved being in the woods. I loved being close to nature, and it just really gave me the time to reflect on myself and my life. But I also started to meet people that were different than the people that I knew back home, that were reading spiritual books and doing spiritual practice. I learned meditation from someone. I learned yoga. Some of you might remember Richard Hittleman's 28 Days to Yoga. I had that yoga book. I had Ram Dass Be Here Now. And so I was exposed to these teachings and these practices, and also did quite a few psychedelics at that time that opened me up to a different way of perceiving the world that was really transformational for my young self and helped me get clear about how I wanted to live and how I wanted to be in the world.
I think this is so important for us to be in conversation about, because I know you and I have talked privately about how ungrounded most people in the transformation business are. Mm-hmm. And to hear that you were running around a cabin without any plumbing or electric, doing psychedelics, reading Ram Dass, I bet you I know a few hippies who are doing that now, except they think that that's the way to then go forward. They think that then you can be slippery in your business dealings, or you don't need to be grounded in what you're teaching, or, all these things that that kind of irritate me. And it's not about me, but it's just so incredible to hear that you went through this part of the journey, you integrated it sounds like, and then you integrated, you assimilated it, and then you create your own stuff from it. You don't need to live from that ungrounded place. I wonder what you think, what allowed you to go to those edges, and then come back and build a business in the world of transformation that is sustainable and contributive rather than extractive and taking from others.
Yeah, well, I'll say that I was really lucky. I've had amazing mentors in my life, amazing teachers in my life. And so that way of, using drugs, using psychedelics, was part of my journey for, goodness, about 5 years. And so it was really in 1999, I decided to, actually, I didn't decide. I was practicing yoga with a local teacher, and she came up to me after class and said, "When are you going to start teaching?" And I was like, 22, 23. And I thought, in 10 years, I will be ready to teach. And she said, "You'll start next week. You're going to start an apprenticeship with me next week." And at that time, there were not yoga teacher trainings back in 1999, at least not here in the Midwest. And so I started to apprentice with her. So in 99, I began teaching yoga. And of course, I had learned about the ethics of yoga, the yamas and the niyamas, and I was meditating as well. I had developed a meditation practice, and which I actually say that the meditation practice saved my life, because when I ran out of money in California and had to come home, I was so down and depressed and thought my life was over, because I literally thought that I was going to live the rest of my life in that cabin, which is ridiculous. But thank goodness, because I can certainly serve the world from a better place here. But I was really down and out. And so I was, doing a lot of meditation, because that was giving me a lot of stability in my life and giving me hope and giving me purpose. And so I started teaching yoga, learned about the ethics of yoga. And then in 2001, my yoga teaching and my meditation had really developed, and I was teaching a lot more, and really had this awakening that I could not party and do drugs on the weekends and teach yoga Monday through Friday, that there was something deeply out of alignment, and that I basically had to choose. I had to choose what kind of life that I wanted. Was I going to continue to party and live in that way, or was I going to completely quit smoking pot, doing drugs, and cutting that aspect of my life away, which meant breaking up with a boyfriend, moving out of a house with a bunch of friends, and really losing a lot of people in the process, but gaining my life, gaining so much more. So from 2001 onward, I haven't done drugs, and I've lived this very aligned life. And am I perfect? Absolutely not. Do I struggle? Absolutely. Do I slip up and do things that, I have to reevaluate my values and my ethics. Of course, I'm human. However, that was a really pivotal moment for me. And during those following years, I met really incredible mentors that taught me about grounding and the regulation of the nervous system. And this was long before embodiment and nervous system regulation was cool. This was back in the early 2000s. But it really helped me drop into a more embodied spiritual practice, a life that is rooted in greater integrity, and that I can then bring that forward into the work that I do and hopefully help others have a more meaningful and fulfilling life that is helping them reach their fullest potential and at the same time be in the service of the greater good.
One thing that you said that surprised me, you said that it didn't work out with the boyfriend that you moved to the cabin with?
Oh no, that did not work at all.
How did that? One of the things that I admire most is that you've hosted, this is crazy to me, almost 50 retreats in your career. Has it been 50?
Yeah, I've hosted over 50 retreats. About 30 of them have been international. And actually 25 international and 25 in the States.
I love that you qualify. I mean, 50 retreats. I don't care if it's 50 weekend retreats. Like that is just and you're like, actually only half have been international. So you've done 50 retreats. I'm curious, what part of the experience do you feel like you've mastered and feel most proud about? What part of the retreat experience do you feel like you've really mastered and feel most proud about?
Yeah, one thing that really comes to mind is a lot of retreat hosts. They plan a year in advance exactly what they're going to teach, their theme, and then they market that theme. And I have been teaching these international retreats for 10 years, and I simply market them as Ayurveda, yoga, and meditation retreats. And many people have been coming on my retreats for 10 years internationally. And they come every year. They come to nearly every retreat I offer. They even come back to the same location again and again. And they know that even though the retreat is Ayurveda, yoga, and meditation, that I base what I'm going to teach on who signs up. So I wait and see who are the people that are signing up for this retreat. Usually about half the people are brand new and half the people are people who've been retreating with me for a long time. And so I sense and feel into who is this particular group, this community that's coming together? What's going on in our culture at this time? What do we need? What are the longings and desires of this very moment? And then I create a retreat theme based on that. I don't create that beforehand. I wait and see. So I am planning the retreat prior. But I'm really tuning in with the individuals on retreat and in some ways curating or co-creating the retreat from this place of sensing and feeling what is needed. And what ends up happening is deeply transformational and deeply profound. And it really gives me an opportunity to ask people on a daily basis while we're on retreat, like, what are you experiencing in your body, in your mind, in your heart? What are your longings and desires? And what do we need to tend to so that this is deeply personal and deeply transformational so that when you go home, it is serving you long beyond the retreat?
I really, in the last 4 minutes, if there are retreat hosts or transformational leaders that are listening and they rewind, that is the beginning of a master's class in hosting retreats. I mean, what you just shared is so profound because, I see so many transformational leaders and retreat hosts struggle. They struggle. And, we almost didn't believe you, in full disclosure, when you said, hey, I sold out a week. I'd like another week in January. We're like, that's the high season, lady. The first time that we met you, because we're like, that's the high season. And are you sure you can sell out another week? We didn't want that risk initially. I remember the conversations before we knew who you were. This was the conversation that we were having internally with the team. And obviously we've seen how extraordinary the retreats are. And you've kind of shared a little bit of the magic. I think, that's very interesting. What sort of credibility did you have to establish to be able to just simply announce that you were doing an Ayurvedic yoga and meditation retreat and for people to sign up? Because it's one thing to say, I don't plan it until I see who's signing up, like really dropping in on that, and that people keep coming back year after year. But for those of us in the earlier stages of that process, what credibility, because you had to establish, obviously you're studying to be an Ayurvedic doctor, you had the yoga, you had the massage, but what did you have to establish in terms of credibility to be able to even think that you could just announce a retreat and that it would get filled like this?
Oh, yeah. So, well, I will say that it was a long time coming. So the first retreat that I ever went on was in 2000 in Maya Tulum with Sean Korn. And I arrived on that retreat. And actually, if I back up further, when I was a little kid, my grandparents used to come to Costa Rica. So when I was a little kid, I decided when I grow up, I'm going to go to Costa Rica. So I had that seed planted in elementary school. And then in 2000, I went on my first yoga retreat, and that was in Mexico. And I arrived on that retreat and I said, I am going to lead yoga retreats to Costa Rica. This is what I'm going to do. But I had only been teaching for 1 year, so I did not have the credibility or the experience. So what I did for the next 10 years is I started teaching. I was teaching my regular classes, but I started offering day retreats. And so I began offering day retreats in my community, and they were really well received. And when that was coming along, I started offering weekend retreats in my community. And then when that was well received, I started launching retreats in Costa Rica. And so that's how it began. And, I have to say that the first few retreats, they were smaller, maybe 10 people the first time, maybe 15 people the next time. And so the first several years, my retreats had, these smaller groups, and it was wonderful. And then by the time I came to Imiloa, that first Imiloa retreat that I led sold out in 48 hours.
Hi.
And so that surprised me because it was a larger retreat. And so, yeah, we added that second week and it too sold out really quickly. And so people were just so floored with Imiloa and the experience of being there that people are really eager to go back.
And by the way, slightly more expensive than your other offerings too. So for it to sell out that fast, I mean, I know that you also have affordable offerings that you host in different places, because it seems like you're always hosting something somewhere. And thanks for sharing that. You weren't ready that first year. You didn't have the experience or the credibility. And it took time to build that. I think people think that they could just call us up and start hosting retreats. So anyways, I just love that you shared that.
I was teaching for 13 years full time before I led my first international retreat. So I put in quite a bit of time.
I know we talked a little bit about it before, but I want to dive back into Ayurveda because I'm just so fascinated by it. And in particular, the gut health, because I know that good health, you've said, begins in the gut. I kind of gave a little bit of like what you shared that I ought to do in my experience in India in terms of the salads and the smoothies, but how does Ayurveda specifically approach nutrition? And in that idea, how is the Imiloa kitchen such an ally when you host here? Can you give us a sense of how Ayurveda approaches nutrition and how Imiloa's kitchen is linked to that?
Yeah, well, Danielle, the chef at Imiloa, he actually studied with a Indian chef and knows very much Ayurveda. So he understands the philosophy of Ayurveda. And so if we look at Ayurveda, we just kind of back up and kind of get the high view first. Ayurveda is a medicine or the science of life that is a 5-element theory science. So we're based on the 5 elements: ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And these 5 elements all have qualities. So, ether is subtle, air is mobile, fire is hot, water is smooth, and earth is stable. So you can see that these elements have qualities. So these 5 qualities combine to make the 3 body-mind constitutions: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So Vata is more ether and air, Pitta more fire and water, and Kapha more water and earth. So based on your unique individual constitution, what you eat and what nourishes you best is going to be different. So Ayurveda is very individual and very holistic. And so when I'm working with someone, we're often looking at what is your body, mind constitution and what do you need because of that. Now, when we work with a big group, let's say we come on retreat, what we aim to do is make food that's tri-doshic, that overall within the week, the food is going to be supportive for all three doshas. And so that means we have to consider a lot of things, but Daniel and your team have been so amazing to work with. And during the days on retreat, I often give education so you can understand the why behind how we're eating. And then we get to have these most incredible meals. I'll say during this last retreat, there's a lot of world travelers that come on my retreats. And one woman at the end of one evening said that this is like eating at a Michelin star restaurant every single night. And so the food is just absolutely spectacular and deeply aligned to what we're doing.
Ugh, I'm gonna cut that clip for TikTok. I'm gonna cut that clip for TikTok from Andrea Russell. That's great. Okay, so speaking of coming on this retreat and the people that come, I'd love for you to share a little bit about what you believe that coming on retreat can be, how it can be a path of collective care. How is individual transformation a proven path to global transformation? This is what you say in your work, that individual transformation is a proven path. Individuals transforming is a proven path to global transformation. Can you talk a little bit about what you believe in this regard and the collective care?
I mean, and the most basic level, when you take care of yourself, you're going to have the inner resources to take care of your life and to take care of the world. I work with health conscious, heart centered, high integrity individuals that want to reach their highest potential in service of the greater good so they can have healthier, happier, more fulfilling lives. And I feel like when we do that, we make the world a kinder, more compassionate place. And when people come on retreat, it's this opportunity to return to the source of their life, to remember who they are, to align with their true nature, their inner wisdom, so that when they go back home, they meet their life, their everyday moments with the inner resources to meet their life with care, curiosity, compassion, and creativity. These practices, they teach us how to turn towards our life. And when our life gets hard, usually the first thing we want to do is turn away from our life, right? Like life gets difficult and we want to turn away. But these practices actually encourage us to turn towards our life, to learn how to use the present moment as the gate and to use our life as the path. And knowing that as you transform yourself, you will become a better person, which then ripples out into the world and makes the world a better, kinder place.
The practices cause us to turn into life rather than away from it. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, you turn towards life.
You turn toward to it.
Yeah, you turn towards life, to the immediacy and the intimacy of right now. So we're learning how to live with reality. So much of our world is promoting a self-centered dream. And so much of consumerism and capitalism is, if you buy this, you will be happier and more fulfilled. But it's not true. And many of us are waking up to that. Many of us have realized that there might be ways that we have unconsciously created a self-centered dream. And we end up in loops about living a fantasy that isn't true. And so these practices, and what I lead on retreat, is to recognize, what are your practice edges? Where do you bump into maybe unskillful ways of being, or where are the places in your life you want to turn away? Those are your practice edges. Then how do you use those as a training to turn towards your life and meet reality where it is, to live in the immediacy and the intimacy of the way your life is expressing? And it's incredibly profound and deeply fulfilling, because we start to let go of the self-centered dream and we enter our life more wholeheartedly. And life really opens up.
So for those of you listening, are you maybe aging and want to do so gracefully? What a right turn that was, but we'll go there because I know that aging gracefully is part of Ayurveda's practice.
Yeah,
That was a bit of a right turn. I did it though. If you're listening and you want to age gracefully, or perhaps you're curious about what optimal health looks like that allows you to create a more meaningful life. I mean, that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about an optimal, how optimal health allows you to create a more meaningful life, likely by being in service and in service to others. And I love that the practices that you share allow us to do that. It's really beautiful, Andrea. I've loved what you stood for and who you are for a very long time. But as we go deeper and we do more work together and create more together, it's really profound what you're up to in the world.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to do the work that I do and work with the incredible humans that I get privileged to work with.
Beautiful. Can you share with us a little bit about what people can, I mean, you have already, but just going in a little more to what this 5-day retreat looks like at Imiloa? What will people kind of gain and learn and experience over the 5 days? As we've joked about, it's quite a busy 5 days. People are going to see Costa Rica. They're going to get a lot of, busy in terms of like, there's a lot of action if people want it, that people can go to the beach. It's a variety of activities, and you're teaching and you're doing all these things. Can you give me a sense of the 5 days?
Yeah, it's 6 days. So it's 6 nights and 7 days.
Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. You're right.
You want to do that little thing again?
What was I thinking? No. I'm authentic here. I'm authentic. We're just going to back it up. And we're going to say this is a 6-day retreat, 6 nights and 6 nights.
6 nights.
6 nights, 7 days. Yeah, 6 nights. So take me through the 6. Take me through the 7 days.
Okay, fantastic. So, each morning we begin retreat in silence. So we practice noble silence because our senses are inundated with so much stimulation in our day-to-day lives that it's often hard to hear ourselves and our inner wisdom. So we begin every morning in silence all the way through meditation. So we start the day with practicing meditation. It's guided, even though the group is in silence, I'll guide meditation. And we have an hour of meditation. So we do walking meditation and seated meditation. And then we enjoy a silent breakfast, which really allows us to tune into the food from seed to plate and how it nourishes us. And then after we have breakfast, we will experience a dharma talk. And I usually draw from either yoga philosophy, Ayurveda, or Buddhism, but some sort of wisdom or dharma talk that, hopefully some magic comes through for people that, feels resonant. And then we practice yoga. And the yoga that I practice, I often joke that you might not perfect your inversions because it is a slower, more mindful, more alignment-based practice of yoga. So we're drawing from hatha yoga, somatic exercises, mindful strength, functional movement, so that you can feel better and move better. And then after our yoga practice, we have lunch. And from lunch until early evening, you have free. So some people like to stay at Imiloa and just enjoy the grounds. You have 30 acres of secondary jungle that is absolutely gorgeous. Countless paths, waterfalls. It is just sublime. So some people like to just stay on the grounds and relax. Others, you'll have the opportunity to go to the beach every day. You'll have the opportunity to go on excursions, whether it's kayaking or zip lining. You can go explore Costa Rica. And that's why we have our afternoons free, so that you can also take in the experience and the gift that Costa Rica is. Then, usually later in the afternoon, we have another more restorative, gentle yoga practice or a type of inquiry practice. We enjoy dinner together, and then you have the evening to just rest and be in conversation with community and head to bed early since the night closes early in Costa Rica.
I mean, honestly, hearing the schedule, like and I know the retreat, but I kind of want to go on the retreat because it's like, you've obviously been doing this a lot to be able to mastermind a schedule like that. But even having, like, I don't think I know another host that does an entire afternoon free, because I think that a lot of hosts will try to pack things in. They'll try to pack in content. And there's such a liberation in that. I imagine even for you as a teacher, holding all these people sold out retreats within 2 weeks of each other, the afternoon must be nice for you too, to be able to decompress. And so you kind of get this, you started out in silence, you go into a talk, you go into lunch, or talk and/or activity, and before that meditation, and then you have this afternoon of integration. It's like, it's a whole transformational journey every day.
It is. It is. And, it is about 5 to 6 hours of content every day that you're receiving, whether it be meditation or yoga, or the teachings that are coming through. So there is a lot of rich content that comes through. However, I know so many people who've gone on retreat and felt they needed a vacation after the retreat. And so I really want to give people this afternoon to, like you said, integrate the teachings from the morning, integrate the insights that they're personally having, and create these opportunities that people can connect with one another in community.
So well done. I feel so silly because I'm like, I'm not learning about your retreat for the first time, but people think as the CEO, I know every single detail about like which retreat and what's doing and where it's going. And so many times when people are sharing with me about their 7-day retreats, 6-night, 7-day retreats, I'm learning about it, really learning about it for the first time, like, because I don't read every web page. So this is really exciting. I love this so much. All right, y'all. So Andrea's 2 retreats are back to back in January of 2024. And it really is the best time of year in Costa Rica. It's the driest and the hottest, which is great for a lot of people. I know, Andrea, for your people that come from the Midwest and Northeast and all over, but most of us are in some sort of winter. And so it's really nice to be able to come down here. You get to learn Ayurveda, you get to meditate, you get to be with people. I mean, the fellowship of the people that you bring alone. So the 2 retreats back to back are in January 13th to 19th and January 19th to 25th. And so you can choose either week that works best for you. It's in 2024. It's, like I said, the best time of year, and the prices start at $3,400. For more information, you can go to imiloainstitute.com/Andrea Russell. And if y'all go there right now, by the way, and you want to get to know Andrea, maybe you're curious about this type of retreat, or maybe the schedule that Andrea shared just sounds so delightful, you can go there to imiloainstitute.com/Andrea Russell, and she offers a free week of yoga with her so that you can get to know her style of teaching. This is a great perk and so smart for those who are listening and thinking about the retreat, but wanting to make sure that Andrea is the right teacher for you. So you can go to Andrea Russell's website at imiloainstitute.com/Andrea Russell, and you'll be led there. Thank you so much, Andrea. I appreciate you.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's absolutely delightful to speak with you and have this opportunity to speak with others who might be interested in the retreat and Ayurveda and the Imiloa experience. It's been such an honor, Jake.
It's such an honor. Cool. And we'll see you in January.
Sounds wonderful. Okay. Take really good care.
Bye.
Bye.